Today we're going to install a ChaseCam DM10 Data Module into a Toyota MR2. You can see the data module takes in one 0 to 5 volt sensor signal, an RPM signal, GPS antenna, PDR cable, and an auxiliary cable which we won't be using today. On this setup we're actually going to be looping the ground for the RPM signal and attaching it back to the ground signal for the 0 to 5 volt sensor. The sensor we've chosen to use today is a throttle position sensor. You'll see here that we've taken the throttle position sensor and unplugged it and identified which wires are the signal wire and the ground wire. The signal wire will send back to the plus on the data module. The ground wire will send back to the minus. Similarly, we've tapped into the vehicle RPM signal on this car. Because it's a mid-engine car, the RPM signal runs along the driver's side door sill from the engine up to the dash. We've pulled this panel and tapped into the RPM signal and sent that signal to the plus on the RPM port on the data module. We've taken the ground for the RPM and run it from the ground, from the throttle position sensor, right to the ground for the RPM. So there's a little cable going between the minus on the RPM and the minus on the sensor input on the data module. We've mounted the data module on the dash here so that the driver can see the LEDs. This will give him status of the PDR and let him know that the GPS antenna is connected. You'll see the RJ45 cable that goes back to the PDR right here, as well as the GPS antenna cable. The RJ45 cable is a longer RJ45 cable than is included, but can be found at any electronics store. Back here you'll see we've mounted our PDR behind the passenger seat. We've run 12 volt power from the cigarette lighter, or behind the cigarette lighter, so that we've hardwired the PDR to the car. When the car turns on, the PDR will turn on. You can also see the RJ45 cable there that ran under some panels up to the data module. Again, here's a wiring diagram of how we've set the car up.